Good morning, everybody. Welcome to City Life. It's lovely coming in when it's light out. Colin and I were discussing that. When it's not dark and dreary. It's dreary, but it's not dark. I'm Linda Bown. I'm your host. I have Colin Loiselle, Town Manager of Tyngsborough, and I have Ralph Hogan, Regional School Committee member, Greater Lowell Regional School Committee member, from Lowell, but represents us all. So, it's just interesting to have Ralph here. I haven't seen Ralph in quite a long time, but he is getting to know Colin a little bit, so that will be, and now Colin knows what he's dealing with when he has to deal with the vote.
Always very easy to deal with.
They really are. They jump
yeah.
about, they do the right thing, they have great subcontractors and contractors, and they always ask before they do anything. It's not after the fact in any way, so they do all the stormwater, and they've got that all
It's certainly
done.
a good partner for the town, too. They were one of the first schools in Tyngsborough to propose funding a full-time SRO, school resource officer. They've enhanced that. I think they fund 2 full-time SROs now, which is a benefit, of course, for the town and for the school. And they've done a lot of free work with the very skilled students that they have in many of our buildings. So,
Yeah,
great
and
partnership.
I when I was out there with Ed Derby, we reached out. We spoke to the superintendent about that for the not for the for the Sherburne property, because we have a little money, and maybe we could do a joint grant. What do you think, Ralph? A joint grant with the.
I think it's a great idea. A few decades ago, there was a proposal, and I was on it with Ed Morris to expand and go into the state forest with a environmental program, which I still think is viable, but it's funding. That's always the key word.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that the host town of Tyngsborough is sort of pleased with our operation, and I'm sure the town manager and yourself will put the good word into the, the actual gears and people that make things happen within town hall. We do try.
Well, I think that the Colin works very well with the vote, and so if there's any grants, and we have some pretty good grant writers in town.
That's always important to any organization.
Oh, absolutely.
So if there's anything that we can reach out to maintain that Sherburne property, because it would be nice to have the conservation meetings there and maybe some conservation educational classes there.
How many acres is it?
Oh my God!
Roughly.
I'm going to say about 82. I think.
It's large.
Oh my.
Yeah. Oh, it's a beautiful piece, but it's a very strict. The covenant that they left on that. In fact, I remember when Rich Lemoyne was selectman, he made a suggestion that we put some of the town offices there.
Rich is a great guy. He's up at UMass.
Sherburne said,
Great
that's
guy.
lovely, we'll take it back. It's just for conservation.
So I'm going to make a suggestion that there's a lot of controversy going on, and we really, all we need is land and funding. At the school, as you may have read in a paper, we're being forced to go to a state-mandated Department of Education lottery. But it's not what it appears to be. In government, as you probably know, Colin, it looks good and you're getting a chunk of money, but when you read the fine print, oh my God, we can't even afford this. Mm-hmm. It's the fine print that gets you all the time. And with this lottery, on the surface, every child student should have a fair shot at an education. But they're tweaking a lot of security type issues for the teacher and the student. And it's just hidden, and the media, nobody is talking about it. And I personally think that when you send your student out the door on the bus to a school, the officials and everybody else involved should provide a safe environment for that child to learn. We are a voc school. We have heavy equipment, power equipment. We have all kinds, everything you can think of, it's there. But it's a cautious situation where you have to have supervision and explain how the, circular saw or table saw, or, a mechanical device is operated. And the long and the short of this is, in that lottery system, if a student has a history of violence, acting out, assaulting a teacher, even convicted of a felonious assault, which assaulting someone is considered, they're still allowed to participate in the lottery. And that's the one that I think it's our job to screen the students. There's only so many seats. Are these students going to, do well and carry on in a trade or whatever discipline they go to the voc for? And I just think some of the stuff that's below, fairness and equity and the lottery for all, I really, you have to, if the parents and the taxpayer looked at it, I think they'd sort of agree that it goes too far.
Well, it's going to negate, as I understand, it's going to negate the way it is now. If you have X number of absences, and it's so hard with Desi now to even do any disciplinary issues, but if you have any disciplinary issues from junior high, then it's a point system, and those points are added to their application, or taken from their application, so that they...
What do you say we put Colin on the spot? We'll ask a question. I'm sure he'll give an answer that's accurate.
Yes, he always answers.
Okay, Colin, I'm your new employee at the town hall, and whatever I do, I do. So I'm working there, and somebody brings to your attention that my attendance is 4 days a week. Even though I'm scheduled for 5 days a week, I'm doing 4 days a week. Sick time, this, that, whatever, the dog is sick, whatever the issues, I present them. But when you look at it and you're saying, the last 6 months, 8 months, 4 days a week, what is your approach to the situation?
So certainly we want people in the office when the office is open. So generally speaking, we would have to either get to that point, or maybe the role is not meant for you. Now, of course, I do have to disclaim Tyngsborough town offices are only open 4 days a week, so you do great in town hall, but
Okay,
but
you know where I'm going with
Yes,
this.
yes.
I'm just, where I'm going with this, if a student comes to school an average of 4 days a week for most of the year, the new program thinks it's great. They want them to be able to do that. Now, I was sort of going at the employer, Colin, and the worker, myself. You have to be there to produce. You also have to be there to learn. If you're not in the seat, if you're not participating, you're not learning. That's a fact of life. And again, that's hidden in this program, this lottery. Everybody says, oh, the lottery, it's fair, it's equitable, blah, blah, blah.
Is it a done deal?
The hope we have is the legislature is going to see some wisdom here.
Oh.
And there's a bill being put forward
I don't have a lot of
where they would establish a commission.
But didn't they have the lottery before at one time?
Oh, yes, at one point, yes.
Why would we recreate the wheel? I don't...
Yeah, but it's more than just a lottery. It's, the Department of Ed is putting a lot of other changes
It's
in.
Desi.
Yeah, Desi's not, current, in my opinion.
But I don't know how you get rid of Desi. I mean, Desi is the one that wouldn't let the kids go back to the classroom. Desi is the one that won't let you discipline at all. There's no, and as you say, in a vocational school where there's
You
equipment.
defund them.
Huh?
You defund Desi.
Well, how do we defund it?
You
They're
talk to your
appointed by
favorite state
the
rep.
governor, I assume.
You talk to your favorite state rep.
Oh.
Okay, John.
Well, we can talk to Colleen. She always votes right. But she's in the minority.
Well, you have to defund Desi.
We have to work on Colin.
But realistically, okay, back in the Wayback Machine, when you were a little girl,
Before beginning of
when you were in
time.
8th grade, did you know what you wanted to do with your life? And Colin, the same question for you. When you were in 8th grade, did you know what you wanted to do with your life? And Ralph? When you were in 8th grade, Ralph, what did you want to do with your life? And me, I wanted to be a radio disc jockey. Until my father had me sit down with a guy by the name of Dan Gillette, who was a radio guy. He said, John, it's only a part-time job. You're never going to own a new car. You're never going to own a house. You're never going to be able to go to New York City for a weekend. You just don't make a lot of money being a radio talk master. So sitting down talking to that guy convinced me, well, yeah, I do want to own a new car someday. So Ralph, in the 8th grade, I wanted to be a radio guy, radio disc jockey. What did you want to be in the 8th grade, Ralph?
At one point, a fireman, a policeman, many different.
Pick one.
I
I don't. Ask. That's what
I remember passing very nicely some police exams, and Jim Connors, an old buddy, he was shocked at the score. He says, "Who?"
So you wanted to be a cop?
Yeah, at one point.
Okay. Colin, when you were in the 8th grade, what would you want to be?
It's so cliche, but I wanted to be the president.
President of the United States?
Yeah.
Okay,
I've changed my mind for the record.
understood.
Well, that's a good
So
thing.
Linda,
Colin.
when you were in the 8th grade, what did you want to be?
Oh, a teacher.
Okay. And in real life, I ended up being an undertaker as a hobbyist in communication. In real life, Ralph, what happened to your police career?
Well, it went out the window pretty quickly. You go to school, you get married. I continued with the education, and basically, I got into construction.
Okay, so Colin, with the White House, what happened?
I got somewhere even better, Town Hall in Tyngsborough.
Okay.
Oh, good answer.
Thank you. Thank you.
Linda, so what happened to teaching?
I taught
Okay, so
in
you,
that, yeah,
when did you, so 25%
for
of the
one.
8th graders have a good target on their career. The lottery at the Voc, although we're afraid to dip our water into that, 25% of the kids who are going to the Voc are going to stick with that trade. 75% are going to go elsewhere. That's just my guess. Now, Ralph, serious question, do you guys follow the kids? 10 years from now, what are you doing with your life? And if you don't,
We have alumni.
you must.
We
You
have an
must.
alumni group that keep some of the students involved. You can't mandate it. It's those that wish to get involved. And we sort of do a little tracking of what they're doing a couple of years
and
out.
what is the sort of little bit of tracking that you do prove to you? Do they stay with their career? Do they move on to being a cop or a town manager or a teacher?
I don't think we follow the profession that far.
Okay, what's something you need to consider?
Well,
I can look into that, John. I can't give you statistics whether you're correct that only 25% follow, but
Well,
I can get,
in this room, 25%
correct.
were on target.
So the real issue
so I
is,
wouldn't be
you're
afraid of
right.
this.
I have to agree with you. At the 8th grade level, most people, they want to be a nurse, they end up being a teacher. They want to be a
Well,
fireman, they
you
end up
guys are
being an
ninth graders out
engineer.
there, right? It's ninth grade. So, 8th grade, I gotta decide, do I go to the Voc?
That's why the students there go into an exploratory program
That's
for the
right.
first year. They 3 or 4 different.
So you think you wanna be a cop?
They explore different
We'll explore that.
disciplines.
And my little exploration taught me else.
yeah, the Vogue does do that. When they first go in, they go through the different types of careers for so many weeks and see if they're interested. It's a little different, I think, than if you're just going to public high school, John, because you get a license, for example. You get an electrical license. You learn how to be a HVAC, and you get licenses. It's unlike I didn't even know, probably most people, when they get out of college, where they're going, for God's sakes. Definitely out of high school, people just, we were all told you must go on, which was a big mistake.
True.
It was a big mistake.
And John, years ago, in the Lowell system, they had carpentry and shop.
Yeah,
Just as a
You remember
filler,
that,
if
John.
you will. That's probably a poor term, but to introduce the students to other careers beyond that college track. And there's nothing wrong with going to college, but, you know, the classic example, I've talked to you about
can't
this
afford it
before.
right now.
Yeah, but I met a parent, I'm going to kill the story, but it's so
That's
true.
okay. Tell the story.
Met a parent at open house out at the Vogue. And, you know, introduced, chit-chat, and he had 2 kids that went there. The older one went and became a plumber, HVAC, so on and so forth. Wonderful. The other one, I think he went to Babson and became an accountant, a CPA, right?
Yeah,
So he tells the story. The accountant, you know, does the books, the taxes for the plumber. And he calls him up and he told his brother, he says, gee, I'm going to have to go up, you know, $25-50 doing your taxes this year. I haven't gone up in 5 or 6 years. He starts into a long explanation. The brother says, don't worry about it. Add $100 onto the, you know, the fee. You know, don't worry about it. You work hard, you know, you have to earn a living. He says, but remember, next month I'm putting a whole new heating system in your house. Moral of the story, the accountant wasn't making as much as the plumber.
it's very true.
And, you know, taxes are an expense. He can write it off.
Yeah.
So, you know, a small businessman, you know, dedication, build a following, you do better than many college graduates, and people fail to realize it.
Oh, well, that was the downfall of our generation. And our kids, we insisted they go to college. And now, granted, you can use that as a basis to move on and do other things. If you're flexible, some people just aren't flexible. They can't just, you know, land on their feet, so to speak.
A ray of sunshine. Fred Bahu
Looking at the monitor.
is working towards bringing in some, what do you want to call it, some technical classes into the high school so the kids can explore.
Right.
I think that's a great idea. Even high school,
Well-
you know, downtown or out the road.
You have
Kids
your
don't know
after
what they
dark
wanna do.
program, which is marvelous. I love your after dark program,
Yeah. I mean,
where high school kids in Lowell can go after school and do a program in HVAC and so they're getting their regular education at Lowell High. But don't kid yourself. The Voc, it isn't just learning a trade. Many of them go on to college, and they have this to fall back on and to pay for college. If if you get licensed as an electrician, you can go to college and pay for it. I mean, if you and I graduated from high school now, not going to have much to be able to pay for college with.
My whole point in this conversation is, I wouldn't be afraid of the lottery, because the 8th graders, 25% of them know what they're doing, 75% don't.
It isn't, but I don't think it's that so much, John, is the discipline and the absenteeism. That are prerequisites right now. And they want to do away with that because they're saying, well, you're not letting so-and-so participate because they've missed 120 days. What's the big deal?
I think
Since the 4th grade, I've got promoted. I don't have to study.
John hit the nail
I
on the
don't have
head.
to study.
It's-
I'm getting promoted no matter what. I don't know how to read. I don't know how to do math. I don't go to class because I don't like it, but I get promoted anyway. Stop doing that. School committee, stop
Desi.
allowing, it's the school committee. School committee that's where the rubber hits the road. They say it's okay, no worries. Push the kid on. We spent 17 grand on this kid's 4th grade education. Push the kid on. It's wrong.
But
Stop it.
Mike Dillon fought that. He fought Desi, and look what happened to Mike Dillon.
Yeah.
He
Well,
tried.
you know, I'm telling you, the Department of Ed is not always right. And
No.
if you get the wrong bureaucrats, it's your children that are going to feel the effect, and they have the student doesn't have a real say.
Stop
if you-
promoting 4th graders who can't read.
Well, we agree. I think we'd all agree with that.
Well, then let's start to discipline Desi say, we cannot promote a fourth grader who can't read.
Well,
That's a great point.
up in, my grandchildren go to Merrimack, and my grandson was very immature, and they kept him back. Parents wanted him kept back. But Olson is the superintendent out there.
Well, I stayed back in the second grade,
And they don't have Desi up in New
and I
Hampshire.
loved the second time around. I said, I got this. I'm the
Yeah.
smartest. Instead of being the dumbest kid in class, I was the smartest kid in
Yeah,
class.
right?
So the
a
enthusiasm
maturity,
I had for
yeah.
going to school and enjoying education was re-energized in my spirit. Might
You're
not
right.
happen to everybody. How many times you stayed back, Colin?
0.
Okay.
I probably should have a few times, but 0.
Yeah.
Now, did you work in a system, did you go educate in a system where everybody passed? Everybody got a trophy?
No, I went to Catholic school.
Oh, that's different.
I think I was very nice to the nuns, so they treated me well.
I carried their book bags home. I still stayed back in the second grade.
But showing up in attendance from grade school right through high school works well in life.
Yeah.
I don't care what you're doing.
Well, I think they're beginning to realize that, aren't they? That we've sort of let this generation down. That the Gen Z, that they don't have to be accountable. People are realizing you have to be accountable. I mean, it's lovely to go through school and just get promoted and all that, but then in the real world, not everybody gets a trophy. Not everybody gets the job. Colin would be the superintendent if he did, I'm
Yeah.
sure multiple people applied. They were, oh, bad luck.
If I could make an analogy here, the administration has a number of people working for them. I'm sure Colin has to deal with many different departments within the state. And I'm going to criticize the governor because she's at the top of the executive branch. Desi has made some errors, in my opinion, and I'm entitled to mine, and I assume they're entitled to theirs, but they're going to enforce their program by defunding or withholding money from us. The only salvation we have is the legislature. But let's look at another department. Who really believes that the administration's approach and methodology of solving the emergency housing issue has worked well? It's 1.3 billion last year, again this year, and climbing. Folks, the state can't afford it. I mean, Colin, do you think those numbers are doable?
No, at some point you've got to stop and evaluate. You
Yeah.
can't sustain.
And she's doing that, and you can see election time coming.
That's why he's doing it.
Yeah. But it was a mistake is what I'm getting at. And Desi is going down that road with this lottery system. It's not that every student doesn't deserve a shot. Take the 1.3 billion, take half of it, and build additional Volk schools, and your problem disappears,
But Desi isn't elected, and Desi will just go on.
unfortunately, until election day.
Even election day.
One of the things that I
No.
find with these state agencies when they promulgate regulations like this and then use funding as the kind of stick to get you to comply, and it's the same thing with the MBTA communities. Tyngsborough is compliant, but the law doesn't make sense, is that they don't involve the people who have to practically implement these
Correct.
changes. So, their intentions may be well, but the only people they're listening to are advocates, many of whom have never
Exactly.
run a school district, let alone a vocational school district, or implemented zoning. And so you get these laws, and I'll use the MBTA communities because that's, tearing up communities all around us. You get these laws that sound great, okay, make it easier to build housing. But then you think of it, I was just reading a statement from the town of Middleton. They failed once again to adopt MBTA zoning. And to just demonstrate how silly the MBTA zoning bylaw was, or law was, they highlighted that it would take a Middleton resident over 3.5 hours using public transit to get from Middleton to the State House to tell the governor that they thought that the law was silly. So, again, it's the same thing with this. I mean, I can remember when I was in 8th grade applying to schools, people that knew they wanted to go to Greater Lowell were very concerned about their attendance. They were very concerned about their scores. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't make a vocational education accessible to everyone. But, you know, Ralph talked about the attendance. If you have somebody who's only going to show up to school 3 days a week or 4 days a week, but there's another student who now, because of this lottery, didn't get in, who would have been there 5 days, you're really doing a disadvantage to the student, but also to the teachers who are in the classroom trying to teach people how, and society, because if we've learned anything recently, it's that we need people to have vocational backgrounds as opposed to simply having college degrees.
John Loiselle for governor. I'm on. I'm going to come up for the checkbook.
Good choice.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets it. It's basic. It's
Well,
that
in government,
simple.
I mean, just turning over to the schools, when I hear that every day we have free lunch, every child gets a free lunch. Okay, taxpayers buy the lunch for the kids every day. I don't have a problem with it. I have a problem when they're throwing their lunch in the barrel. They don't eat the free lunch because they don't like the free lunch. And the teacher, well, we can't make them eat. Well, wait a second. The kid wasn't starving to death when she came to school today. They just hate the lunch you're putting in front of them. What kind of research is being done to give these kids food that, you know what, they love spaghetti. They hate fruit. Well, they need to eat fruit. Well, let their mother tell them that. So the government, well, what do you want us to do? Provide something that we like. And the government is here, all due respect, Colin, the government is here for self-preservation, number one, self-preservation. They're here to serve the public. That's a good line, but really not that true.
I think it's the most true at the local level. Just, I'm a little bit biased, but I think you're totally right. And food lunch, I mean, bless the school administrators that have to procure contracts with food vendors, because I helped our school department with one 2 years ago, and the requirements from DESE, I hate to keep harping on DESE, but I mean, they're too complicated for even me to understand, and I've got a master's degree. I've been in the field for a bit of time, so I think you're right, John. I think we've overcomplicated things, and it's not going very well. But I do think that local government is more about the service than self-preservation.
Well, at least fortunately, we're still doing what needs to be. There's democracy in local government. You get elected or you don't get elected. And I may not be supporting you, but I don't burn down the vote because I didn't like you. And I'm wondering if in America, I think we have to look at things. Do people not want democracy? Because if they don't like or hate Trump, he's your president. He got elected. Like or hate Biden, you didn't see them burning the buildings down and rioting. I mean, that democracy, you win sometimes and you lose sometimes.
The media's doing a terrible job with the presidency. They've been doing a terrible job with the presidency for generations. Who's the president of Hannaford Food Corporation? Who's the president of Hannaford? We all know Arthur DeMoss is the big cheese over to Market Basket because media tells us so.
Right.
Who's in charge of Hannaford? Who's the boss over at Target, Lowe's, Home Depot? Who's the boss? We don't know. So we're happy with the service we get at all those stores. I'm happy with the service I'm getting out of the United States government. I don't care who runs the place. I voted for whoever's in place. Do you really think Elizabeth Warren's going to quit no matter how much we hate her? No. So we have to live with the government we elected. That's not going to change.
But they're not. They're not living with it, John. That's the problem.
The media. Shut it off. Shut it. You know, I
I
found
agree with you.
on Comcast. This is pretty cool for everybody in Comcast. I love watching news around the nation. And just this month, I discovered if I go to channel 4431, in that range of TV stations, there's local news from Los Angeles, Phoenix, Houston, all these different cities around the country. So Minneapolis, I was watching their version of Channel 5 News in Minneapolis the day that they shot those 2 state senators. So pretty cool stuff to be watching their real news instead of whatever the national media wanted us to know about. So if consider it's up 4, 4, 3, 0 somewhere. There's a whole range of stations around the country. So just get some goof off time. Check it out.
I would hope. What
The
can I
media
say?
does have a huge effect on society.
Oh, yes, it has.
Like
Been very disruptive.
Yeah.
yesterday, I almost like you guys. I get up at 4:30 in the morning. Today, you get up early. And yesterday, I get up early, and I'm watching a station called Sky News. And they got the president on Air Force One. He's got the door open. He's talking to the media. And it went on for half an hour. And I found it fascinating because I love listening to when the president speaks to whoever the president is. I want to hear the president's words. I don't want to hear you know what he said this, and he said, no, why don't you play back what he said? So it went on for like a half an hour. And the biggest thing I had a kick out of was on the lighter side of things. They said to the president, that'd be the media at the door at Air Force One, are you going to call Governor Walz? He says, what for? I'm going to call him. I was like, how you doing? What am I going to say to the guy? So they turned the page on that one pretty quickly, but it was funny.
Yeah.
But the media, there's plenty of media out there. You're watching Fox because you like what they're telling you. You're watching CNN because you're watching Channel 5 because I like the weather girl. I like the weather, I like
Oh, that's very
LaToya
important, you know.
on Channel 10. I like to watch LaToya.
That's very important.
It is. Have you
Yes.
seen the girl on the weekends?
And you know what? Tomorrow I'll forget what she said today, so. You know,
As long as you know it in the moment.
yeah. And it's going to be wrong, but we listen anyway.
Who's your favorite weather person?
I like 5. I do 5 or 25.
Who's the person?
Well, I don't know who she is. She's
Okay. How about you, Colin? Do you have a favorite
she's
weather
quite efficient.
I get an email every morning with the weather forecast, and I just read it.
So you don't have a favorite weather person?
No.
Ralph?
I think it's ABC we watch in the morning, the morning program.
That would be 5.
So you don't know the weather person's name? There's a woman named Kellyanne Chickalese. Oh my God, drop dead gorgeous. She's on Channel 5 weekends.
Okay.
I always go, I'm going to watch Kellyanne. I don't care what she says.
Well,
She's just
that's what I'm
adorable.
saying.
At the end of the
pretty much.
broadcast, John has no clue what the weather is,
I don't
but
care, but she's adorable.
he saw the weather person,
Yeah.
so he's good.
She's beautiful.
That sums it up, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
If I could just go back, Linda, I'm so glad we had a chat today because I feel the same way you do, that the party has sort of gone too far. And
Yeah.
it bothers me, but, I'm one little cog in the...
Well, you and I were in politics. We've been in politics. We're old. We've been in politics for a very long time, and we agree sometimes, and we're still friends.
Exactly.
We can still have a drink together. I don't understand this mentality that if you don't, on everything, it isn't just one thing, everything, or the moment, everything is, they're so needy, it has to be at the moment of whatever
It's
interests
life or
them.
death. It's
And it's
just
not.
a political question. Do we go left? Do we go right? Do we go straight? I mean,
No.
I think, though, to the point about the media, I think the media exaggerates the divide.
Oh.
I think that when you actually, I'm as apolitical I have to be for the job, so I don't have any preference. As long as the government sends its money to Tyngsborough, we're fine. But I was at Epigram in Tyngsborough this past weekend, and as everybody knows, there were demonstrations of all sorts over the weekend. We had one in Tyngsborough, and there was a table of probably 6 people who I knew a couple from, they volunteer on boards and committees, and half of them were planning on participating in a demonstration against the current administration, and the other 3 were like, well, that's ridiculous. I totally support the administration, but they were having beer together. They were eating together. They were getting along. And when you look at the news, it makes it seem like you can't have a differing
But
of opinion.
they didn't burn down.
No?
The
did
meeting
stand-
house is what I'm saying. There's
Yes.
the issue right there.
Yes.
They weren't allowed to burn down.
They did stand in front of my new sign, which I wasn't thrilled about.
I know,
but-
I couldn't read it.
I know.
I almost said
Forgiveness is
something
important.
that was not polite.
Linda, I think we really can do a draft movement into the nomination of governor. Colin would be good.
I'm so happy we have him. He's
Well,
wonderful.
You need common sense in administrations.
Well, and as an administrator, and you and I both have been in positions out in conservation that you talk about unfunded mandates. And stormwater is one of them. It's huge. It's killing the cities. And we've fortunately been able to do it early on because it wasn't a huge undertaking. It was just sort of moving on, following up with some of the businesses that didn't have the systems in order and making sure that they maintenance. And now even a house that's built, you have to make sure stormwater.
I'm not going to name the town, but I was involved in a construction of a home, and the lady gave us a hard time applying and getting permits. And then she retires, and I'm thinking to myself, less headache at town hall, She shows up as chairman of stormwater.
Oh, no.
It cost us $18,000.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of crazy. There has to be a much better solution than that.
Well, they don't want any water to leave your property. That's pretty much the mandate.
Then they should speak to Jesus because he controls the rain. Not
Good
not
point,
me.
Ralph.
I don't control the rain.
We'll update our bylaws and put that language in there.
Yeah, but it's an interesting point. They would put a bylaw in
Yes.
Yes.
to address that. We'll
Yeah.
talk to God about our problem.
Yes, everybody speak to their angel.
But going back to the lottery and the 1.3 billion for emergency housing, there's a classic example. You only have so many resources. There's only so much money available on the table. And if they take it and spend it willy-nilly on a quick call, a quick snap at a football game, that's what they did.
But Ralph, how do you unscramble this egg?
Take half
of
the
the
work.
ACLU. No, there is the issue right there, that the mentally ill, they closed all the hospitals.
Please, I have to interrupt. We had the mentally ill before the open border situation.
Oh, I'm
They
saying,
didn't address it
No,
well
but-
then.
yes, they did, Ralph. The Democrat, Mike Dukakis closed all the hospitals in
Oh, man,
Massachusetts.
You know the history. You're right.
And
You're
then
absolutely.
because they're in bad condition, right? Absolutely, they were. Then allocate the money to fix them. What he did was he put them out in the streets.
That didn't fix anything.
It was worse. And so but now, then the ACLU came in and said, oh no, they have rights. They don't have to go into the hospital. And the poor things we treat our dogs better.
Oh, that's true. If half the homeless has some sort of underlying mental health issue that is treatable,
Yes,
but they're not.
they don't have to be treated.
Yeah, but some people refuse to be treated and get worse, is my point.
Yes.
And you're right, society doesn't address that issue well.
How do we address the text, please?
Colin is an unbelievable resource and advocate for Greater Lowell Tech. For projects, capital planning, infrastructure, to simple traffic mitigation, he has always worked to help find a solution. Thank you, Colin. I agree. The town of Tyngsborough is very fortunate to have such a dedicated person in the role of town manager. In Tewksbury, Mark, you can't have him in Oz. Because they think they have every. Maureen Steele is in.
I think it's Healy, but
Ma
it's a
Healy,
joke.
okay, is in way over her head as governor. She is the ultimate DEI hire. It's no surprise here in Massachusetts. Yeah, that's the issue, right? But you're right. We've got some issues, and we'll see what happens. She's coming up for an election. Grand Slam, comrade. The media, especially in this state, are responsible for a good amount of the problems in this country. True. But the only way you're going to fix that is change the channel you're watching. Mm-hmm. And also, not everybody, the rest of the country, we have, Massachusetts, the coast, Massachusetts, we have a warped sense of what's going on in the country. And I think John brought that out. And California. And there's all this huge America in between. And they're normal. They're working, they get up every day, they provide the food, they make the cars,
I watched the California station yesterday. Then I'm listening to a radio station in the car yesterday called KFI. This lady made very good sense. She said, look at, I've headed up to here with this time frame that you have to be off the streets of downtown Los Angeles. I'm a small business owner. I need the business. You're putting me out of business. With this curfew, everybody has to be home. Police, arrest these people, bring the National Guard back, get rid of these hoodlums, and let my customers come to my store.
Because they don't even live in the communities
So
they're
this woman made
destroying.
so much sense, I don't know what kind of a store she owns in downtown LA, which is a gigantic place, if you've ever been there, but she's right. Arrest these jerks, get them off the street, let the stores be.
Well, the drugstores went out of business pretty much in California from looting. And it was a problem even in Lowell. Walgreens closed. They were getting
Which
issues.
Walgreens?
Wood Street.
I think that's because
Really?
the new bridge is going in.
That's too bad.
Oh, now, yeah, but
That's in my
They have-
neighborhood. I go there.
not anymore.
I know. That's too
You
bad.
have to come up and see me in Nashua. Yeah.
It is crazy what's happening in business, big business. Take a look at the numbers, and if Colin's pharmacy isn't producing, they call them up and say, Colin, 6 months, we're gone, it's all over.
Well, when you talk about Walgreens, yesterday, Linda used to run this nifty drugstore in Tyngsborough, and my life was so much easier when Linda had a drugstore. But the sunset went down to that, and they're nice people, so they moved on. So now I'm stuck going to Walgreens. In the drive-up line, there were 4 cars in the drive-up line. I had just got my large iced coffee. I'm just in the drive-up line. 30 minutes later, man, it's my turn at the drive-up window. And I realized the problem is the woman, the drive inside Walgreens, was doing the best she could to understand English. What is going on? I mean, she had the spirit to give out excellence in service, but she couldn't communicate English well. What the hell goes through Walgreens' mind over on Plain Street? To let a person with that kind of a spirit put her someplace else where she can be magnificent in the store, find somebody who can talk to the customers. What a stupid thing to do. So I'm looking for a new drugstore.
It's not easy. But, Linda, if they just listened to us, we'd run this country much
I
better.
know. And they are running the rest of the country much better.
Well, Lori Trahan, she's the best. She's the best. That's what she gets reelected. Elizabeth Warren, oh my God, Elizabeth Warren? These people,
But again, I'm going to go back to
Get rid of them.
You can't judge the country by Massachusetts or California. Thank
Linda,
God.
it's that
I
no
know.
matter where you go, you can go down to Kentucky. They love their congressperson.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just come back from South Bend, Indiana, and, the family was out there, and my wife and my son were talking, and they're saying, my God, the people are so nice here. The staff, the work, whatever store, restaurant, it was a different approach. And they noticed it.
Yeah.
It's clearly noticeable.
Yeah. But I don't know what's going, well, we'll see when the elections come about that.
Well, it's local election. You guys got selectmen?
Oh, we have wonderful local elections.
You guys have selectmen race now, or is it all done with?
It's all done.
It's all done.
Yeah.
And because Colin is so efficient, but I feel like this because you've been to some of the town meetings, 49 minutes.
49 minutes.
Well, look at this new firehouse that you voted in.
Yes.
Yes.
But just the design money. We haven't allocated construction money yet.
I would insist it be a drive-through.
It certainly is the plan.
Backing the fire truck in forever. Just those things that they don't make fire trucks small anymore. They just make them way too big.
Yeah.
And I think they should all be drive-through. What are your thoughts?
Oh,
Manager?
I totally agree. That is the plan, of course, as the project moves along, when we get to the point where we have to ask taxpayers to pay more on their taxes to build it. Money is always a consideration, but in a perfect world, and our current plan is that it would be drive-through. And it's, the drive-through isn't just for convenience. There's actually, and I'm not a firefighter, but talking to the architects that design fire stations, there's actually a safety element to being able to just pull straight through as opposed to backing in.
How many bays are you going to have?
Our ideal fire station, based on our size and looking ahead 30 years, would be 6 bays. Only 3 of them would need to be drive-through. The remaining 3 are for our smaller apparatus, like the brush truck, a tank truck, etc.
Okay.
And everybody around needs a tank truck.
Our tank truck is the oldest piece of equipment in our fleet, but also the #1 requested for
I
mutual
saw a
aid.
beautiful tanker. It was a Kentworth tanker. Oh my God, what a magnificent truck. It was on Facebook, but fantastic stuff. Now, have you considered having a third party build the fire station for you and you buy it off them? Saves a lot of money.
It certainly would. We have not.
That's one
have to look
avenue
into
you
that.
can certainly consider,
Yeah.
to have a company like Ralph's
A turnkey?
build you a firehouse and you buy it off them. Then they skirt all the law.
I can see Ralph over there going to-ching, to-ching, to-ching.
No, but what I'm saying is, why does the government pay supreme money? I mean, you can build a firehouse, I'll say, for $1 million. But when you build it the way the government wants it to build it, it's $5 million. Why?
That's a really
Prevailing wage, there's a number of items.
prevailing wage. The procurement laws in Massachusetts are incredibly cumbersome. Their whole intent, again, this is an example of the state trying to give out a solution to a problem without consulting the people who do it. The whole procurement process was designed to prevent favoritism, which is a great thing. You should have competitive procurement, sure. But, a great example, we wanted to build just a simple pre-engineered, prefab steel building for our garage, for our highway department. Just 5 bays, nothing fancy. You look at some of we've built several in town. Private developers have built them in industrial zones. They're building them for 25, 30% the cost that it would cost us to build it, because when you build anything that is a building in Massachusetts, you can't just say to Ralph's company, hey, I need 5 bays, however you get there, as long as he gets an occupancy permit. You've got to first hire an architect, and the architect's got to do a design, and the design has to be so well thought out, because then you have to competitively bid it.
Well, let's go around that curve together. I would tell my fire chief, or chiefs, I don't know how many you have, to 1 day a week, take a ride to a new firehouse in Massachusetts and southern New Hampshire. And pick one that you really like, and let's get those plans, and let's build that fire station.
Yeah.
You hit a great topic, because I'm not going to criticize anything that Tyngsborough might be doing, but they're not the only ones building a firehouse.
Right.
Why doesn't the state, who actually ponies up some of the money, why don't,
No, Ralph, we need the fire chief who has to operate in the building.
well,
I
it's
mean,
the
I
funding
have-
mechanism.
I have a beautiful funeral home in Arkansas I went to. And the guy spent magnificent money. And I said, what was the biggest mistake you made? He says, the architect didn't realize once in a while we have an extra wide casket that has to go into the
Oh, God.
preparation area. And so they had to rip out doorways,
And make it bigger.
make them wider for our friends that are a little heavier than us. And he said that was the biggest mistake. And the architect was embarrassed. He didn't think of that. But that was the biggest. So that's why I say the fire chief must, 1 day a week, buddy, just 1 day a week. And we'll do it for 2 months. And then come back with me with a report where you went and what you thought of the new fires. Because Tewksbury, my kid went over to the Tewksbury fire station. I'll put the.
Beautiful
But
station.
you can do it. You private can do that.
My kid went over to the Tewksbury fire station. The fireman was so pleased to just give him a tour of the new firehouse. And I think that when you have a fire chief come into town, like when an undertaker knocks on my door, can I have a tour? Yeah, come on in. It's all glee, because he's got no loss. I can brag about my facility. What brought you here? What'd you hear about the place? And you learn so much. But you're telling me we can't do that?
Can't
Fire
because
chief
of
can't do
funding.
Well,
Nothing
the
else.
state, in my opinion, should take your advice, John, and have a standard building that meets a lot of the requirements from many different towns and cities, and say, if you use one of our plans, we'll fund you an extra 10%. And they already know the cost, they already know everything, you know.
Yeah, but what
Just
about
pay
all
the
their
architect.
favorite architects and,
That's where you save money.
I know, but
Let me
that-
ask you, Linda,
Portsmouth,
do
New
you think
Hampshire-
I've built and used a house plan more than once?
yeah,
Portsmouth, New Hampshire
I know what you're
had the
saying.
genius idea to build a training facility. So I go up to Portsmouth, I'm driving, taking my wife shopping someplace up there, and at this traffic light, I'm saying, why do they have a little porch off the firehouse? It makes no sense to me. So one day I'm on my motorcycle, I go into the firehouse, go in, I says, can you tell me what the little porch is for? So it's for training. What do you mean training? We're a regional training center. Because of our location, we talked the state into giving us some extra money, and we turned it into a training center. And the little porch was to train firefighters how to carry a body down a ladder. And they have classrooms inside they gave me a tour of the whole, and again, with glee, this fireman's walking me around the whole building, introduced me to the chief.
They
and
get extra money.
it was pretty cool how they turned it into a training facility, and they get extra money from the state to pay for their firehouse. Pretty cool idea.
Innovative.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm still rolling the idea of turnkey over I don't know if that would be possible. It would be good, but I don't know that if you had somebody build a building for the town that, and then
When you bought your
you
house,
buy it.
when you bought your house, did you build it?
Yes,
Did you design it?
pretty much,
Okay. It was exactly what you wanted.
yeah.
Okay. And you know exactly what you wanted. In most municipalities, the fire chief has nothing to do with the plan that he's going to get stuck with.
Yeah.
And he
Or they
should-
bring them into those building meetings.
And he or she should be knowing exactly, because, again, I like the tour idea, because he can talk to the people who operate. What don't you like about it? Oh, the frickin' doors ain't wide enough. Or the frickin' doors don't go up high. Or the doors go up too slowly. Or you know what, we freeze the place. We don't like to leave the doors. There should have been thicker glass on the doors. There should have been, it's single pane on the doors. It should be double pane. There's a lot of these different issues that you learn when you visit a facility.
Yeah. But that's too logical for
Well,
government.
The firehouse that the chief of Tyngsborough builds will be there long after he or she retires.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll talk to Wes at the Sportsman's Club meeting.
Okay.
I'll put that in his ear. How about that?
We got 4
Then
minutes
he
till
can
break
go
time.
harass Colin.
And he has, I mean, we did 2 years ago, maybe 3 now, we did a kind of a department assessment using a consultant. And so we know what we need in terms of space for our community, and they use that to look. The new station Drake had built on the east side of
Yeah.
our town is basically the same concept. We need a couple more bays because it would be our headquarters. This is just a substation for them. So we are looking at other places. The site that we're targeting is incredibly unique. The Winslow School site off Middlesex. So we'd have to obviously tweak the site plans and stuff like that. But we will look at others. And unlike in other municipalities, the building will largely be, within reason, a product of the chief's input. I know nothing about firefighting. I know the trucks go wee-woo, and that's about it. So obviously I need his input to...
So I'd tell the chief, bring your most seasoned firefighter with you. And 2 heads are better than 1.
Yeah.
If I could just segue a bit, Tyngsborough has an excellent fire department and first responder unit. There was a terrible accident on Route 3. They
Yeah.
did a magnificent job getting the person, there was a fatality, but there were several people who were airlifted
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
to Boston.
Save
Yeah.
some
Your
lives.
fire crew is doing a great job, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
I agree. I think that we're
Yeah.
doing fine. I think
You know-
we're on the right. And I thank you, Drake, because I'm on that side of the river, and it's so nice to have a fire station near me.
They're usually the first one. If somebody has a heart issue or some sort of serious issue in the middle of the night, the fire truck is the first one there.
Yes. often.
I've experienced it with my poor mother a few
Yeah.
years back.
Yep.
So
They do.
you can't take them Can't take them for
And
granted.
I don't know how they get around in cities to be, the size of trucks now. Mike Dillon, I don't know how they, God bless them, because the roads are so tiny and,
Well, the parking is terrible.
yeah, well, and they're all over the road, so.
But don't get in the way of a fire truck responding to an active fire. The mirrors are gone, the bumpers are gone, and that's the way, if
It
you don't
should
park
be.
correctly, that fire truck has to get there and save a life.
And I would think they have the right of way, actually, always.
Yeah, but I was referring to the narrow cities and the way
Oh.
people park.
Oh,
Well-
yeah.
It's nuts.
Oh, it is. It is. Well, because that's a whole other part of Worms that we don't want to get John into about the parking, because they don't build.
I love to make fun of Mike Dillon about that. When I say, Mike, is that the first thing they teach you in firefighter school, how to park the truck in the way?
But-
It is odd, though, that when, have you ever, like, unfortunately, drive up to a scene that's an emergency situation, they park willy-nilly and everybody's backed up. I know they gotta get there and get addressed to the people that are in trouble, but
Oh, yes, we had a lot of on Facebook and Tyngsborough. Oh, can't they do something so
Oh, 'cause
it
the
doesn't
traffic,
interfere with that?
We're gonna go off the break, and we'll be right
Okay.
back. Thanks.
Thank you.
it is awful when, have you ever, like, unfortunately, drive up to a scene that's an emergency situation, they park willy-nilly and everybody's backed up. I know they're gonna get there and
Oh, yes, we had a lot on Facebook and TikTok. Oh, can't they do something so it doesn't interfere with that? Okay, thank you.
divide me book.
Yes, yeah.
Welcome back to City Life. I'm Linda Bown. I'm your host. We were just joined by the Vice Mayor, Paul Ratha Yem,
Thank you,
Who has
ma'am.
a fundraiser tomorrow, and we'll talk about that. But
Good
he's
morning.
very good with the veterans. I have Ralph Hogan, who's on the Greater Lowell Regional School Committee, and of course I have my town manager, Colin Loiselle, who's the best town manager, and we're giving Oz a run for their money.
Before we get too far down the road, I got these comments from the last hour. You can read those, let
We
them-
need new politicians with new innovative ways instead of the way things have been done for too long. The current politicians are lazy. Wait till government regulations get involved with the Brook Bridge construction. Get ready, it's going to be fun to watch. The chief, Warren, does well up here in her safe space. Is a home base for the radical liberal loons.
Back over to you, Princess.
Tell us how
Okay.
you really feel.
The first time John asked me to read, I read it to myself, and he got very happy.
Yeah, that was pretty
That's
cool.
tremendous.
We have to forget that one.
No, I learned all that. So anyway, Paul,
Yes, ma'am.
you've been very busy with the veterans.
Yes, ma'am. It is one of my honor to take up and to file my first motion when I was elected in 2021, and I was sworn in 2022. My first motion is to create a low veteran subcommittee on the council, and I'm honored to be the chair of that subcommittee. The first business is to honor our veterans and place the wreath and American flag on all the gold star poles and square in the city of Lowell. We have a lot, so it hasn't been done for the past 20 plus years before I was elected. So the next line of business was to bring back the hometown hero banners for all the veterans who are from Lowell, who serve the armed forces and who may no longer with us, and we want to honor them every year. So I sponsor a number of the veterans who I've learned of their sacrifice to defend our country and liberty, and also honor the four police officers who were killed in the line of duties. Their picture was on the wall at the city hall, so I took upon myself to sponsor that, all four of them. So we placed the hometown hero banners. It fitting that the four officers who were killed in the line of duty, their hometown hero banners flew around in the JFK Plaza right from the police department of the city. So now we expand that every year, so now more and more people get involved. And this past May 13, I filed a motion the year before to honor all the veterans who lost their life, defend our country, who are from Lowell, model after the Boston Commons. So meaning that we place all the flags that represent all the lives of the soldiers who passed away since the Civil War until the current war. So I turned to our local historian, Dick Howe, to kind of put together a list of all the soldiers since the Civil War. So we had 1,278, and the Lowell Sun, Melanie ran the story, and a gentleman lived up in New Hampshire, reach out and say, hey, I look at the list, there's one person is missing. So he mentioned that the technical sergeant who lived up in Centerville, he lost his life during the World War II, and he was buried in Paris, in France right now. So we add one more, and Melanie forwarded the email to me, and I said I'll plant the 1,279 flag for him. So which we did. We planted 2 weeks before the official Memorial Day at the Ladd and Whitney monument in front of the City Hall. That weekend, UMass Lowell commencement, thousands of families drove into Sanger Center to celebrate their kids graduated, and Richard Howe was honor as one of the local leaders by UMass Lowell, and he mentioned that, we did a good job by placing the flags in front of the City Hall at Ladd & Whitney Monument, because all the thousands of family who drove into Lowell saw that, and they will wonder what it's all about. So it gave us something to talk about. So next year we're gonna put like a stand, like you go to a museum and you read about something, an art or something. So we're gonna put there in front of the Ladd & Whitney, describing what other flags represent, So, and there's a QR code where people can scan it,
Nice.
and then they can see the list of all the soldiers who lost lives.
We could do that in Tyngsborough, because we move the memorials,
Yeah.
and we have that island. So
Right.
it's something we could think
Yeah,
about.
Absolutely.
and look into, and maybe Richard Howe can do research for us. We have the Lowell Auditorium. It has all
Yes.
all the tablet that has a name of all the soldiers that died in a hall of flag, we call it, So
Yep.
from that, that's Richard Howe put together a list of all the soldiers. So and that's not all. I'm hoping to do more and more to kind of bring back and remember all our veterans. People ask me how I'm so into it. And I told the story of my father was an officer in the Cambodian Army during the Vietnam War. His unit was sent to protect the capital of the city, Phnom Penh, on April 12, 1975. The U.S. withdrew the last personnel from the city, Phnom Penh, and then 5 days later, the Khmer stormed the capital, and that's the end of the of what my father's, and that's the beginning of the killing field. So I have not seen him, and I don't even remember what he looks like, because he's always in the front line with his unit. So he would come home once in a month or so to visit. So, and that's the story. And what I do for the veteran is also honor him as well. The one thing that I always think about, always pray that he doesn't have to suffer much, when his unit was overran by the communist Khmer Rouge. So,
Yeah, it's an amazing story.
Yes,
And one we can
I
relate
commend
to.
you for putting the motion in and following through with that.
Right.
And you raise a very interesting point that I think is missing in our school here in Lowell. That Ladd & Whitney monument that Paul speaks about,
yeah,
what is the significance?
right.
Yeah.
Those are the first two soldiers killed in the Civil War. It's really
Yeah.
a historical issue, and the city does not, until now, really,
We need to get back to history,
oh, yeah.
Right.
because
We
we're
can't
creating.
repeat the errors.
That's right.
Yeah,
And we're
and
doing-
on the day that we planted the flag, we had about 40 plus ROTC high school student came and helped us, and some veteran came out. And Richard Howe was there, and he gave the history mostly to the youngster from the high school about the Ladd & Whitney. Those are the two names of the soldier from Lowell who died during the Civil War. And that's where we're standing at the Ladd & Whitney. That's their burial ground, and they built that monument just to remember him.
Yeah. So,
There is a little humor here, if you don't mind.
Oh, not at all.
There was a city manager a few decades ago
Okay.
who thought that they were going to put a major road from the proposed Songus Arena right to the Lowell Connector.
Oh,
And he was going right through that stone
Ladd & Whitney.
until they found out they would take an act of Congress to move that stone.
yeah,
Because it's in the
It's a
national,
national
yeah, it's a
historic-
national
Yeah.
treasure, really.
Right.
yeah, it's,
Yeah, that's
I
that's
commend you
interesting.
again. That's excellent to be working on the history and honoring our veterans, because they have fought and protected our freedom. Linda and I couldn't argue about what kind of frosting to put on the cake if it wasn't for
yes.
the conditions and the veterans fighting for this country.
Well, and Paul understands what it's like not to have liberty and freedom.
right.
And
Yeah.
and that goes back to what I was saying earlier. We need to make sure we maintain the
Yes,
rights we have
right.
and enforce them and
Right.
just stop the nonsense.
Right. We had a really great opportunity at the Lowell High School where students enroll in the Air Force ROTC. They are trained and they want, and some of them became joined the Air Force and all of that. And then in addition to that, they become an educator, to help their peers, their family understand what it's important to defend our country and liberty. Before I forget, the soldier who went off to war, the son and daughter, husband of uncle, of family, the family left behind took up all, and they've made sacrifice. As I mentioned earlier, I have never seen my father, so my mom became a father and a mother as well. But fortunately, we live in an old country where we live together, 3 generations. My grandmother lived with us, my aunt lived with us, so they become, the mentor, kind of shape me as what I am today in the old country, very strict in raising, respecting the elders. And you have to study hard. Education is important, and these are the things that I inherit. I carry with me. And the one line that I remember till this day, my grandmother said, all the treasure, all the thing that you have on this earth, it disappear. Education is a treasure that no one can take it away from you. It's so true. After the fall of Cambodia, our house was taken away, our money, everything that we had. We have only clothes on our back. And that's what I landed in LAX, and I showed John my arrival at LAX, with the jacket. Yeah, with the jacket and with the shirt, and I have like a small Pan Am carry-on bag, and the clothes that I have was made it by missionary. They made it for me, and the pants, gray pants, the white shirt. So they said, so that's all I have when I arrived about 50 years ago at LAX, So.
And we've been a country of refugees, but they went on to become citizens, and they understood. They came to become. They came to America,
Right.
and I think we all treasure that.
Right.
And the history of it, and what you give up to become a citizen.
I've learned through others, immigrants who came from Europe by ship, and they were talking about how proud they see the Statue of Liberty, the ladies' Statue of Liberty, and they knew that they arrived at the freedom and all that, and they get off the boat and rebuild the country, rebuild America, and that's what, Lowell is about. I learned the history of the canal was digged by the people from Ireland.
That's correct.
They walk all the way from North End to Lowell to work for the mill owner digging the canal. So the Irish immigrant came and all of that. So Lowell has a rich history of that, and I don't want our younger generation, my kids and all, forget that, that we all came from somewhere. We came to a country, a great country of America, and this is our new home, new life, and we rebuild the country, just like the forefather before us who came from other parts of the world to America. So.
We've become a little jaded, I think. We're so removed from that, and also we've lost that family connection.
Yeah.
It's such a mobile society that you don't have the grandparents and everybody so close to help
Yes. Yeah.
mold the person. So
Paul brings up excellent points, and, we have to teach the kids or educate them on some of these issues so that history does not repeat itself.
we've fought very hard to be where we are.
Right.
Yeah. Ladd and Whitney were killed in Baltimore at the beginning of the
Civil War.
Civil War, and it is a significant national
Yeah.
issue, and, the kids in Lowell High School should talk about it, and
Yeah.
history is required
Right.
before you graduate.
Yeah.
Recently, there was a controversy about the Ladd Whitney monument. It is believed Ladd and Whitney are both buried there. It's the smallest national cemetery in the world. And recently, some protesters were standing on the grass, standing on their graves. And the comment was, you're standing on some graves, you shouldn't be doing that. And the spokesman for the group said, let the dead speak for themselves.
Whoa.
What a genius term to use. So that's stuck in my craw about we get these left-wing loonies should be standing on that grave. So look at, Paul sent me these pictures. Paul Ratha Yem, when he came to the country. Here's Paul's first steps into the country.
Oh my goodness.
Right, I'm in the middle there
He's
with
the
the
guy right
jacket. Yeah, that's a jean jacket that
He
was
didn't have
given
a
to
big
me.
suitcase. He didn't have this.
No,
Here he is.
that's not mine.
A little
Yeah.
carry-on bag, and that's
Yeah.
all he had.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's another. That's a
So
close-up.
There
of
you
him.
are.
yeah,
And then they immediately
and they
said, "This
they-
man is made for TV."
and then they haul me into a conference and they put me up and all the press and everything talked about what happened in Cambodia,
Because you weren't even here an hour yet, right? They were interviewing you.
right? Yeah.
Wow.
It's incredible.
So yes, the gentleman and his wife on the left is a Cambodian missionary who also survived the killing field of Cambodia, and he's were there to meet us. And the guy, Phil Jones, on the right is a press secretary for this organization, Christian organization called Campus Crusade for Christ. They work in the various campuses and all that, and they took the opportunity to let the world know, because until that time, Cambodia was kind of closed off, and the world never knew what happened.
No.
So this is the first opportunity for the press to talk about. There's some other photos that we have the radio, we have local, KLA. That's will
And
be.
here we
We're
are
not too far
today.
down the road here, Paul. You want to tell us about your party tonight?
Yes.
Tomorrow
Right.
night, sorry.
Yeah, I would like to invite all of the viewers who are watching right now to join me tomorrow evening, 5:30, at the Lowell Firefighters Club on Fletcher Street to kick off my re-election campaign. This year I will have 2 challenges. So we will have the primary September 9th to reduce 1 person. So in the whole city, only 2 districts has a primary, the Belvedere and the Acres. So and District 7. District 7 is including the Acres, and then District 3 is a Belvedere. Belvedere has about 4 or 5 candidates running, so they have to reduce it to 2. So these are that's. So the number 7, the blue in the middle there, that's my district, the smallest one, and then to my right, the green to your right on the screen, number 3, that the Belvedere section. There are 4 or 5 of the candidate running for 1 seat over there.
So looking forward to a heavy campaign season. Let me go and get this. Linda, can you
Is
read
there a hometown hero banner in City Hall honoring Colonel Krieger?
I approached him, but he never really answered me about I want to honor him, and he said, yeah, he'll get
Well,
back
he's
to
been
me.
kind of-
and, yeah.
He had a
Is that
distinguished career.
Clifford,
He
right?
said
We
Cliff.
talked about Clifford, right? Cliff?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cliff. Yeah, I
And
approached
the
him.
top one's for Colin.
Huh?
Will Tyngsborough have an electric fire truck?
Oh, good Lord.
The answer is no. It's funny, you laugh, but I mean, this
No.
comes up.
No, I brought it up, and that's a butt joke on the council floor. And Mayor Rourke always make fun of me because that's the second common motion that I made, that the city look into fire electric trucks. And then I learned down the road later from the chief, the fire chief, say that getting the truck is one thing, but then you have to have the firehouse too, to charge
That's it.
this.
Right.
And then number 3, he's talking about the truck is more heavier. Can our road and bridges handle the weight that
Right.
that
Yeah.
these fire truck demands? So.
The vice mayor
Interesting.
answered the question for me. It's too, it's too challenging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Will it
Kind
put
of.
the fire out better?
yes.
That's where the rubber hits the road. You have to ask the
No.
chief, okay, did you go to Vegas? Did you go to the convention? I don't know if you send your firefighter to the convention or whatever, but that's where you learn about new stuff.
Yes, they do.
And they're promoting all these electric hearses and all the other good stuff, and
Yeah.
it doesn't do anything better than the hearse I had, so
Right.
I'm not changing.
There's
Yeah.
some other cities in town that already implemented, and like in other states, that have done it, but they are not, not traditional older building, older city like Lowell. One
Yeah.
of our firehouses as old as the Smith Baker Center is built in 1877, 78, something like that. And the challenge is we try to remodel that, upgrade that, so that the
Well,
firefighter will
What works
have a
well,
say.
Paul, is the hybrid where the unit itself
Mm-hmm.
creates the electricity it needs, like a locomotive, a train
Right,
locomotive.
right, yes.
They're all electric.
Yes,
They generate their own electricity.
right. These are the same, John, the same technology now as a year progresses, more technology, so will be less heavier on the truck. The company built the truck to fit and the need of the different fire department, and thanks to the ARPA funding, the city of Lowell was able to purchase 10 new fire trucks. This is all going to be brand new, and it built according to the spec by the city. We submitted to the company that built it, and they built it for us. So far, we have about 4 or 5 already delivered to the city of Lowell, and we place it different firehouse, so they have all brand new fire trucks. So we are fortunate, and we were able to allocate, thanks to my colleagues, we all vote to allocate about $10 million from the ARPA money for that.
And your next challenge now is updating your fire stations.
Yes,
which
right
is
now
a
we
real
did.
challenge.
We did. We, the council voted to allocate for the improvement, part of the structural improvement. So we vote about $7 million out of the fund that we had. So we dedicated the most pressing need for is a 3 firehouse, the oldest the firehouse in the city of Lowell, the one on Guam Street down the street from here.
Yeah.
It's also one of the oldest. And also we need to also take out the lead paint and asbestos in
Oh,
those
yeah.
buildings, because this is hazardous for our firefighter to be there all day and at some of night, breathing this unhealthy air. So that's our priority as a
Well,
council.
right now, we're doing a pretty good-sized project on the Grove Street Firehouse you're talking about.
Yes,
Do you know what they're doing to that?
right.
If you can't know everything, but do you know what they're doing? What the fire department's doing to that building?
Yes, you see, that's one of the things that we as a councilor, we leave it up to the detail to the fire department.
But do you have any idea what they're doing over there?
We were told that they will remove the asbestos and they fix the basement so the water wouldn't leak, and then upgrading the bathroom, the kitchen, and the sleeping quarters. Now, those
You see,
are,
they're putting walls up in one of the fire bays, so. Okay, so they're
yeah,
upgrading
they have,
everything? Good.
yeah, we have the sustainability department and also working with the building department, make sure the structural, and then the health department, make sure everything is up to.
Because I'm an advocate for tear them all down and build new stuff, but that ain't gonna happen at Lowell.
Yeah, you could do that. You could, but the thing is that when you knock it down, where do you house the truck and the personnel, while you do that? So normally you have to build a new one first before you tear down the old one. So we have, place for all our firefighters to stay, and then the fire trucks and all that. So now you're talking about 2 additional expenses that you need. So by fixing up the house, it's more feasible, it make more sense.
And we
so-
still end up with a 150-year-old firehouse.
Yes,
That has new wires.
and these buildings are built really stronger. I live in an 1889 home that was really owned by a famous person, and the beautiful woodworks, John. It's just like your home, exactly like that. And you know, you have pocket door. It to me like they built this huge pocket door, beautiful wood.
Yep.
They lift it up and they put into the house. They don't build like this in society today. So why tears down such a beautiful woodwork, similar to the argument I
I know I'm
made?
not going to convince you, Paul, but I mean,
Yeah,
looking at the brand-new fire stations that we see, Dracut, Tewksbury,
right.
soon to be Tyngsborough, a building, I think that we owe our firefighters a brand spanking new
Sure.
building. And
Yeah.
it's like, let's keep the JFK Civic Center. As we speak, pipes are leaking in the cellar of that building.
Yeah,
And
this-
they have been for years.
Right. Now this council committed to on a capital improvement, set aside money. You know, before my time, we have no fund, no budget to take care of the building that the city owns.
Maintenance.
So
Well-
now this council say we need to set aside capital improvement.
After
we need
the
to
election,
improve it.
I
Yeah.
will try to zero in on what we're blowing way too much money on, and it's
Sure.
the second floor salaries at City Hall, JFK Civic Center, the school department. We have way too many chiefs and not enough Indians. And I know, I'm not asking you to agree with that, that's what I'm thinking. We'll go back over to Linda, because I can keep talking forever.
Sure.
Yes, he'll go on and on and on, you know. We have no control over that.
Speaking
Because he
of
can
that-
shut our mics off.
Speaking of that, the rumor was that John's gonna run for council. I haven't seen him pull the
No,
paper
pull
yet.
papers,
yeah.
no. He,
No, I'm not gonna, because Sean McDonough's running. I just wanted somebody from District 4. I think that we've got lackluster performance from Wayne Jeunesse. He's a nice man, but like
Put the camera on yourself when you speak, will you? So we know who you are.
Okay,
Good for
boss
you,
man.
Paul.
Thank
Good
you,
for you.
boss man.
Who's in charge here?
Okay, so
Who's in charge, John?
well, no, that's a good point. Evelyn Thorin tells me the same thing. The whole, I thought, there's a good size hole in the road at the corner of Chapel and Elm Street. In Lowell, the reason they have lids on coffee cups is because of Lowell streets. The coffee cup lid was invented in Lowell because when you drive down the street in Lowell, you can't have your cup of coffee not spill on yourself. So the coffee cup lid comes from Lowell. But if you drive down Elm Street and the hole in the road, I asked, when is this hole going to get fixed? The only city councilor who could find out the answer was Eric Getchia. And Eric said 2026. And I just said, why? He says, that's what it's on. If I were the district councilor, that'd be fixed now. Because every week I'd be saying to our lackluster manager, I'm not asking you to agree with me, Paul, our lackluster manager, Mr. $1,000 a day guy, fix this. Fix this. And next year, Johnny boy, no, golden boy. Now, fix that hole now. It's summer. You know, down the street, they had a little leak coming out of the ground. Why didn't they let that go for a year?
but John,
did they
everybody
have to
has
fix that?
a issue in
You
their
want the camera
district.
back? I'll give it back to you. I'll stop talking.
Let him. I bet Collins, you don't have pothole in your town, right?
No,
Yeah.
our streets are absolutely
They don't
perfect.
need coffee cup lids
Except on
in
my street.
Tyngsborough.
If John called me every day, I'd fix the pothole.
Yeah,
Not hard.
it is what happens. Yeah. No, our roads are actually, but again, the roads, and I hear it, the complaints in town, I'm sure you get them. Everybody says, my street. I have problems with my street. And so they try to, they map them out and they try, you only get so much money for street repairs and they,
Yeah.
you know.
And part
Ralphie,
of
the late, great Ralphie Mercier, Rita Mercier's husband, taught me the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And don't bother with the frontline people. You call the boss directly. And at city council meeting, I would say to the Golden Man every meeting. What's the status on Elm Street? Every stinking meeting.
And I think in a lot of districts that's happening.
It works.
Well, you just,
But the end of the story is there's a kiddo by the name of Sean McDonough. I say kiddo because he's probably like in his 30s. He's a special needs school teacher in lovely Lowell, Massachusetts. And he's running for this district, and I'm happy.
well, you have the most ridiculous district to begin with. It goes for all the way from
Oh, I think there was a lot of gerrymandering that happened.
of course, Chelsea line right up to the Drake line.
Don't say that.
Over the river, and through the woods you have to go. And you have to come over the bridge to vote. The poor people, and now they finally have a place for them to vote in Centerville. It's a bizarre district.
I agree.
But, whatever your decision, John, we'll all live with it, but I really believe you would add a different
The
perspective
meetings would
to
go
the
on way too
council.
long, Ralph. I'm sorry.
You'd add to the council.
Danny Rourke, he does a fantastic job getting the city council meeting over and done with. If I was sitting there, that would never happen. We'd be there till 11 o'clock.
Yeah, so,
Because I have a way of getting under people's skin.
yes, we know.
Believe me, Elm Street would be fixed.
I would love to see his John, one of the 11 counselor. I'm telling you,
Ain't happening.
Perhaps
I'm
not.
too old.
it would be.
Well, and it's very hard running with a business.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
I'm old. I ain't doing it. I got somebody running. I'm happy.
I
That's
agree.
good.
Yeah, at this point, let the others, the younger ones,
Yeah, the younger
it up.
generation's got to take over, and the old buckaroos like
been
myself,
there, done that.
we got to get some kiddos to run the country.
Yeah, and he did. You made enough noise that somebody ran. They said, "Oh
I'm happy.
God, we can't have John McDonough."
No, we can't.
The word got out. There was some arm twisting, probably, to make sure they had a candidate. But anyway, well, let's go back to Tyngsborough a little bit and the roads. We do have a schedule on the roads, and I know that we had a problem with a builder up on Tower, that area. Is that being dealt with?
Yeah, the thing about the roads, to John's point, is that I think for many years, every town just took care of the very worst roads when people complained, but then the rest of your roads were never maintained, and then they fell into complete disrepair. We hired our first full-time engineer probably 7 years ago maybe, and then we started thinking about our roads differently. So we spent, and money is limited, we get the same number of dollars from the state in Chapter 90 funding. It's about $400,000. That's how much we've gotten for the last 15 years. Every year, particularly around campaign time, which is interesting, they promise it's going to be more money. But we're spending close to $2 million a year now on roads. We're infusing local funds into it. But our approach has changed so that we're focusing on preserving fair or heading into poor condition roads before they get too bad, because it's much cheaper to, I have good news on that one, it's much cheaper to preserve a road than it is to do a full depth reclamation when it's in terrible condition. So every year we do 2 phases. We do a preservation phase, which touches typically 3 to 4 miles of road, which doesn't sound like a lot, but right there you're talking about $1 million, $1.5 million. And then we do as much as we can on a failed road to fully redesign it. One of the roads I get notes about is Old Kendall Road. That we just actually updated. We use a professional.
Is that what Ralph just sent to you?
I would not like to throw Ralph under the bus. But one of the things we do every 5 years is using an online platform that I'm not nearly smart enough to describe, but our engineers are. We update the road conditions and our overall PCI. It's the Pavement Condition Index, and we use that to develop our next 5-year capital plan. Old Kendall Road has made it onto the 5-year capital plan in the first year of the new capital plan. But the problem is in Tyngsborough specifically, and I'm sure it's the same in Lowell in some areas, is that our biggest issue is drainage. When these subdivisions were built as summer camps or built before we had a strong planning board or conservation commission, nobody thought about drainage. And so it's not even as simple now as just tearing up Old Kendall Road and repaving it. It's not a huge road, but there's no drainage structure. So now you're talking about easements, you're talking about having to work with neighbors to situate drainage in the town's right-of-way, which impacts them. So it's a very complicated thing. The answer is you never make anybody happy, not everybody happy. But I do think that if you drove through Tyngsborough 6 years ago and you drove through Tyngsborough today, you'll find a lot less failed roads, but still bring your coffee cup lid
Now,
with you.
We have a lot, like Frost Road. That's a state road, but
So it's interesting. It's not under state jurisdiction. It does have a state identifier, but it's under the town's jurisdiction. The only road in Tyngsborough under state jurisdiction is most of Pawtucket Boulevard, all of Middlesex Road, and a small portion of Kendall and Westford.
Oh, don't even
primarily-
talk to me about Kendall, because now
Yeah.
we have sidewalks going to the highway.
Which, if just for the record, was a condition of the planning board. Yes, I agree. It is kind
It's,
of.
but, which you're not supposed to go on, so,
Yeah.
anyway. But Tyngsborough, one of our issues has been, and I bet you probably haven't, well, maybe not in Lowell, we have a lot of old roads that were never accepted. And so they've sort of methodically been putting them on the town meetings to be accepted, and new people that come into town don't understand that concept.
Just a second, sitting on the management, they're paying for things, why should I accept your road?
Well, because you have a town meeting vote.
But why should I accept your road? Like, why don't you accept my driveway?
Because you're gonna get
I'm
money
tell
to
Paul-
repair it.
I'm gonna
That-
tell Paul, I got this big driveway. I'm gonna have Paul accept that as a street, now the city will plow my,
No.
well, that's what you're saying, right now.
No.
Unaccepted streets, you built it, it's yours.
No, I'm talking about old streets. Like Muscuppick Trail and these smaller,
A developer built that
riverbed.
road?
No, they were
The town built it?
no, they were established as small. That's where people originally moved into.
The thing is that the state used to incentivize you accepting roads because your road miles, total road miles, contributed to the formula for Chapter 90. It won't surprise anybody sitting here that, as with everything the state touches, that's broken. And so the more roads you accept, our money's not going up. The problem, to Linda's point, is that these are roads that a developer built at some point. They don't meet current road standards. Many times they have no drainage. They're in poor condition. And so when the town does ultimately accept it, you're essentially accepting a liability. The downside is, Linda's right, people move on to these streets, and maybe they need to do better research, but who thinks about whether their street's accepted, right? If it's got a street sign, typically you just assume it's a public way. And then they start having issues, and then, the argument that we hear all the time is, well, I pay the same taxes as somebody who lives on Magnolia, which is an accepted way, why shouldn't I have the same access? So it is a balancing act. We don't just willy-nilly accept roads now. This past town meeting, we accepted 2 simply because we have future plans to extend sewer onto those roads, and you can't do it on a private way. But there are still a handful of these very tiny roads that at one point were camps near lakes, no drainage, that haven't been accepted because it's just a new
Well-
liability.
Right in suburbia, and I'll stop talking after this, and I see, Colin Drive, and in small print it says private way. Is that an indicator that's not a
Correct.
Yes.
accepted street?
And there are a lot of streets like that that were always
No, that's
intended
not-
to be private.
So it's not an accepted street, but it
Correct.
says private way.
But not all of the unaccepted streets have signs that say private way because they were never intended to be private. It could be that the developer never followed up. Again, up until the 90s, we didn't have a very strong planning board, so the planning board didn't follow up. But there are, anytime a new large condominium development, for instance, the Toll Brothers, they just built 100 age-restricted homes. That is, as a part of their special permit, restricted to always be private. So there could never be a circumstance where they could come to town meeting and say,
That'll change.
No, and that has been a problem in town.
Yeah.
Subdivisions, that and the builders say, oh, it's always gonna be
Right.
private, you're never gonna have to plow it, you never blah, blah, blah,
We don't
blah.
have enough time to argue this issue next time. Next time, Colin, I'll argue with this issue.
I'll come with a list.
But, yeah, I agree with you when you talk about people moving in. One of my sore points is down along the river where the pumpkin patch used to be. And all those condos that are in the floodplain. And they're in the floodplain because it's a 40B, and 40B lets you bypass a lot of the conservation regulations. And now, I know that everybody gets upset with conservation regulations, and some of them are a bit extreme, but I do believe in the floodplain. And it is underwater, and it does have problems. And when Trahan built those, he offered everybody a sump pump. Now, people coming from the city had no idea what a sump pump was, so they didn't take them. Now they have to go buy their own, because he had a time limit when they could get the free sump pump.
15 minutes.
If you build in a floodplain, the sump pump is mandatory from a construction point of view.
Well, yes, but not necessarily in a 40B, obviously.
Well, we live in a generation where you get in your car and you press a button. You have no idea how the car works, but you get in the car and press it. When you buy a home, it's a turnkey. You assume everything's ready to go.
They don't even know whether they have a septic tank.
So
Or
Linda,
in
we're
the towns.
running out of time, so we got to make sure our guests are
Yes.
happy with what they put out to the audience today.
So, Paul, I'll start with you, because you have the fundraiser tomorrow night.
Right, yes,
At
ma'am.
what time is that, Paul?
It starts at 5:30. And the good thing is tomorrow is a Juneteenth, so a lot of people had a day off. So if you don't show up, no excuses that you have to go to work. So please.
And where
I'm
is
just
it,
kidding.
Paul? Tell them where it
will be
is.
at the Firefighters Clubs on Fletcher Street, right across the street from Market Basket off of Broadway. So
Yeah,
right
North
there. So,
Common.
yes. So number 362 Fletcher Street, Firefighters Club. So the reason, it's just right down the street from me, and I also would like to support our firefighters because this is where they gather and with different event, and the fee to use it is really minimal compared to others. And
Yeah.
then we have food catered by Jade Low. They donate
Oh.
food, Jade Low, and we have Simply Khmer, and then we have another, two others. So China Star is one of the four
So come
local
hungry?
restaurants. Yes, please. There's a lot
Don't
of food.
eat before you get there.
Exactly, and then
We're gonna chow down at Paul's
yes,
party.
yes, and then and then that's how the firefighters club made money from selling the liquors and all of that. So that's a way for them to make money, and that's for way for me to help our firefighter club by providing that opportunity to increase the revenue by selling all the drinks and waters and all of that. So I encourage everyone to really stop by. You know, donation is up to you, $20, $10, you know, whatever you can. You know, as I mentioned
Hundred's
earlier.
better.
Huh?
Hundred's better.
Yes, I know, but not everybody can afford like John, you know, so, yeah, so $10, $5, that will be acceptable to offset to help with the campaign re-election. Like I mentioned, I have two challengers, and we will have a primary September 9 to reduce one person to two, and then the final election will be Tuesday, November 4th, the two final. So, people ask me, how do I feel? I feel like, you know, like McDonough, feel like a first time again, you know, running like this is your first time. That's just my attitude toward running, that I'm running as if it's my first time. That's what I did, you know, 6 years ago, 5 years ago. So, and that's my attitude. I mentioned to John, what I have, who I am, where I am today. It's all about hard work. As John showed the picture, I arrived in America with only a small bag, you know, on my shoulder. I was adopted into American family living in San Bernardino, California, volunteer working with the Cambodian churches in Long Beach on weekends. And then I got a call one year saying, you want to come to Boston to work with the Southeast Asian refugee coming to Boston. I volunteered without hesitant and without knowing how cold Massachusetts is. Imagine, I drove across the country from Southern California, right? Got to Boston. I got here like the day they ran marathon. This is 1981. And I knew nothing about the weather, nothing about the snow, the cold, until I got here. So I got a rude awakening.
You've done very well.
Yes. And now, Ralph, your issue is the lottery, and the issue of the lottery.
Yeah, I mean,
class
I
acceptance.
think people really have to look at it. I mean, people want their child to go to the school because it provides a good education. As a matter of fact, this gentleman to my right His son was there. I met him on a tour of the school. I
Two
just happened-
boys.
And,
Yeah.
but now he's one,
Wow.
your oldest is off to UMass.
Both of them are UMass.
Both?
Both of them, yes.
They're doing
Yes,
well.
They're doing well,
Yeah.
yeah.
And were you happy with
Right.
the Voc school?
We were happy with the vote school, and we really, on the council floor, we vote to appropriate because the city and town contribute
Yeah.
to the vote. So I said that one of the hidden jewel of the school system is a greater
Agree.
vote. Yeah.
I agree with
We're
that.
doing what you're asked us to do out there. We're trying our best.
Yes, yes, I think, well, yeah, and I agree with you on the lottery. I think it's better to at least have some thing that you can work
Jeannie
with.
Valkis is the,
Vice Mayor Paul Ratha Yem is one of the most collegial.
Cordial.
Well, that's what I would have thought, but there would be an R, but it wouldn't. But anyway, statesmen, like elected officials, I have ever seen. In this volatile and hot-blooded political climate the world is currently experiencing, we need more elected officials that possess the respectful and civil qualities of that Vice Mayor Paul Ratha Yem brings to the table. He more than deserves re-election. Thank you, Jean Balkus.
Thank you, Jean. I hope you can stop by tomorrow night, Jean. So it would be an honor to meet you, and we have a lot of food, and we have some music, and we have a professional photographer donate their time to help out, and same thing with the DJ volunteer that time to help out, with the music and everything.
Well, we do, and we are happy with the civility, I must say. And in Tyngsborough, we don't have, oh, you didn't mention Ironwood.
Yes, 2 weeks ago, we opened our brand-new open space parcel, Ironwood Park. It's on the site of the former Tyngsborough Country Club. The land, about 30 acres, was donated to the town as a part of the Toll Brothers development that went on the remaining part of the golf course. And on 2 weeks ago now, we cut the ribbon on a bunch of different sport amenities. There's 6 pickleball courts, 2 basketball courts. There's volleyball, shuffleboard, bocce. There's a pitch and a putt. Disc golf, which I've learned a lot about recently. The town spent about $1.2 million of CPC funds developing the parcel. We had a great turnout. The weather held out, and every single one of those amenities is in use almost all day long. No matter what time of day I drive by, there are people there. There's a walking trail, a beautifully restored
Yes.
clubhouse that will host some community events. So it's not just for Tyngsborough residents. We use CPC funds, so you can't restrict it to just Tyngsborough residents. So anybody can stop by. I think it's a great addition. I think it's the first of its kind public park on that side of the bridge.
Oh, definitely.
That's certainly getting a lot of attention.
But
John, you are welcome to use that as well, John. So not restricted to Tyngsborough, right? You hear that, right? So you can go out there and have exercise.
Just avoid Elm Street, I guess, on your way to Tyngsborough.
Yes.
It is a good, I go by all the time, obviously. It's on my side of the river, and people are there all the time, and I always see people walking on the park. So
It's a great addition to the town.
yeah.
Yeah.
Colin, while you're here, since we ran out of stuff to talk about, when are you going to get a new the police station you have in Tyngsborough? Lackluster.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Any
that's-
plans to blow that thing up?
No. We spent a few years looking at a combined public safety building, and then town meeting approved a new middle school, which has been a great success. The project is nearing completion. We'll take possession of the building next week. It's $2.5 million under budget, so by all means, it's a positive thing. But Tyngsborough's tax base is already, kind of taxed to the max, and so it would be, in my opinion, I think the select board, both the previous one and the newly situated one, agree that going for a $30 million public safety building on the backs of the taxpayers when they're already paying, their $50 million share on the middle school would be excessive. So we had to reevaluate what the biggest need was. We have I think, health and safety crisis in our current fire station, so that's what we've decided to prioritize. We haven't forgotten about the police station. Town meeting approved almost $500,000 in capital money to do some much-needed exterior envelope repairs on the building. We just replaced the flooring. So they're going to be in that building for the foreseeable future. We've identified a couple parcels in town that we already own that would work for a new police station when we can afford it. But I think what we do very well in Tyngsborough, and I know that there'll be some folks that disagree, is that we make decisions based on what residents can afford. We don't see residents as just an open checkbook. And so with those constraints, we've decided to invest in the building to make it usable. It's tight space, but fortunately our police officers are obviously out on the street most of the day as opposed to the firefighters. So we're making some improvements, but that building will be the police station for the foreseeable future.
Thank you.
What people from the city don't understand is we don't get the big chunk of money for education.
Right.
Well, compared to Lowell's police station, the Tyngsborough police station is the Taj Mahal. Okay? The JFK Civic Center is just embarrassing.
But,
I'm going to send a
but,
clip of this to my police chief the next time he
Well, tell
has a
him-
different opinion on the
Tell him
police
to go
station.
down and to get a tour of the Lowell police station.
Yeah.
See how he likes it.
No, our police are great. They
but,
do a lot with a little.
In defense of that, we should invite John right now. The police department, the building under renovations, really. So right now it's going to be beautiful after it's said and done. So I like.
I'll be happy to
I
have a
like-
tour of the cellar. That's the problem area of the JFK Civic Center, the lower level.
But
you
it's
can't see.
already been taken care of, and you are welcome to spend the night there if you wish.
Well done,
Paul,
Paul.
do you
Vice Mayor's gonna-
on a-
My vice mayor's
On a
right there.
serious side note, Mr. Wise Guy over there, did you go to Markley?
Markley, I went. Yes.
So what happened when you went to Markley?
Okay, I went through.
Markley is the new Cloud, the old Prince Spaghetti building.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're not,
Yeah,
the
I,
neighborhood's in dismay and
Okay.
they're not liking the generators and the noise.
You asked a question and you want me to answer, right?
Well, just to enlighten the audience, because people in Tyngsborough might not would know what Markley is. Please explain what Markley is.
Okay. About 15 years ago, I'm in the real estate business. So when it was foreclosed, I took my my investor client to look through, and we walk all the way to the rooftop, and we look at this. We say, this is the giant elephant, that no one can really make profit of it. So the investors say, "No, I'll pass." So, and now Markley came in. I walked in this past Monday afternoon. I couldn't recognize it. And then they get the permit to add additional backup generators using diesel. And the residents were concerned that the diesel, the fume and all of that. But in their defense, they have gone through with the EPA, with all the state regulators, and then they come to the city, they work with the fire department, with the building department, and then with the union and also sustainability, make sure that it's all compliant with the noise, with the odors, and they put up a really high wall. You walk in, you couldn't recognize it, and they have all the security people there. It feels like you're in a military zone or something like that.
Well, it is the cloud.
Yes.
For anybody that doesn't
Right,
realize,
and
this is
at
the cloud.
Right, and they told us at the end of the tour, but before that, I want to say that they led us to the area that they installed a new generator and a big pile of dirt and everything, and I quietly asked a question of one of the engineers, and they say, well, the pile of dirt, which is back to Andrew Street, we have family that we know of live on Andrew Street, will be level and will be all these plants and everything like that. So that will be done and everything, and the wall will be up 10 or 12 feet to absorb any noise. And when I was there, I walk in, I could hear the hum of these generators that are up. And I said to myself, I don't live next door, so I don't know that. But from walking through, it's not as loud as. And I said to myself, some of these cars that drive by have the loud music louder than that. So
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So the humming, you hear it when you're in there, but because of the 10-foot, 12-foot wall with sound barrier, I don't think that would be a big. And then at the end of the tour, they brought us to the front, and then they show us the plan underneath that. That's where the canal, the waterway used to be, and then over it they plant all these species of plants that is beautiful, and then it's beautiful facing Gorham Street and facing the ballpark. So to me, they've done a good job in trying to mitigate any concern that the resident may have, the noise, the odor, and all of that. And then they
I
give
just want to
us.
point out, Paul, that this is the,
That's the
Yeah.
cloud.
it's a
Yeah.
gigantic building.
Yes.
Yes.
And then and then they
The
told
black
us
building.
that right now Mass General, UMass Lowell are generating the power from them. They the one that provide.
Now,
So
what do they pay the city in taxes? Any idea?
I do not know an idea,
I would
but I know
imagine
it's
that's
going
a
to be a
big
lot.
piece of change.
They have
Exactly.
a TIF. They have a TIF.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, they have a TIF, that mean the tax incentive, but it gradually, now it's been like, what, 5-6 years now? So it's a 15 years TIF, so now they almost to the end of the tax credit, and they will pay full price, and that's the.
well,
that's
in
the-
Lowell,
Yes,
that is, it isn't like Tyngsborough that we have the same tax rate. You have a split tax rate, so they're paying
Paying
double
double.
what a
See,
resident,
my problem,
double.
my problem with all this generation, I want a chimney as high as the chimneys we have in the mills. Why is the chimney just as high as the building? It should go up 100 feet so when they turn these puppies on, we don't have to breathe the air.
the generator that they expanding, it's a backup. It's a backup. You know how at our house and at the hearing I raised the same, we have Generacs that using the natural gas, right? To fire it up. It's a backup if our light
30
go
seconds,
off.
kids.
So they say that this is not running full time. This new generator using diesel. It's a backup power in case the main power is down. And right now, UMass Lowell General Hospital depend on that, power
Interesting.
grid from them. So they cannot afford losing the power in the middle of the surgery. So the Markley grid
No.
play important,
Particularly if it's mine.
critical, yes, critical. And then someone asked, oh, what about, we heard that you providing the cloud for Google, for all, and all that. They said that's the Boston. Boston, they have another facility in the Boston area that will provide all that cloud computing and all of that to the company in.
Good to know.
Tomorrow
He wa-
City Life, we're going to have the new guy who's running, Sean McDonough, is coming tomorrow to go back to this month.
Right.
Jump forward several months while you guys were gassing over there, sorry.
John, you did I? Oh, maybe I missed the
Sean
menu.
McDonough.
Yeah.
And tomorrow night is Paul's party. And tomorrow's
Yeah.
going to have Evelyn Thorne, Bob Hoey, Sam Chase. It's a holiday, but we're going to be here anyway. And Sean McDonough, the kiddo that's running for city council, that's tomorrow, City Life. You guys are going to say goodbye because we're only on.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Facebook
everyone.
now.
And I won't see y'all for 2 weeks, so
You got 2 weeks off, yep.
enjoy the 4th of July.
Bye, we'll
Oh,
be
no, I'll be
done.
back for the 4th. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you,
See you tomorrow.
everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for getting
Thank
up,
you.
guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you.